everyone, Matt Hrushka, Kachava Exchange. So for anyone that doesn't know a whole lot about, yeah, you can go for it. Okay. For anyone who doesn't know about Kachava just in general, we essentially have two main verticals outside of our blockchain project. So blockchain, obviously exchange, but the unified audience platform, which we offer attribution and measurement for all of our clients, whitelist, blacklist associated to fraud, really understanding what happens in between that supply chain when our clients physically buy and that media is delivered. So effectively, we do about 7 billion annually associated to media spend in our platform. This is the non-blockchain portion of it. And then the other portion is Kachava Collective. And this is just to give you a little more breadth of or knowledge associated to who we are before we get into the exchange. So Kachava Collective, we have about 5 billion devices. We're the largest mobile-first DMP in the world with about 1.9 million monthly actives. So definitely social scale when you start thinking about that, the Twitter, the Facebook, et cetera. So prior to getting into, I think, Exchange just in general, I think it's worth mentioning we're very product focused. That's how we've always been. We build it. We never really copy code bases. We think of ways that we can help our clients, and then we physically build it from the ground up to know that infrastructure and to know that tech. So this is not a fork of Ethereum. This isn't built on a second layer. We are, well, it isn't built on a second layer that we haven't built, but we essentially built a high throughput blockchain. So it is a proof of stake consensus built in Rust, done some really interesting things with WebAssembly, at least for compiling some of the contracts on the layer 2. More than happy to get into details with you guys, at least after this, but the overall scenario is very similar to what we've seen, I think, in some of the previous presentations by Miguel from Lucidity. The advertiser, the publisher, so the buyer, the seller, negotiating those terms, data overlays, however you want to look at it, going into an ad served, a measured, ultimately a rating, which gets into that reputation system associated to identity, and then handling that individual payment. I think it's worth noting that we don't necessarily use a token for that payment. It is more for that incentive associated to the proof of stake system. So providing that incentive to run the node, validating those transactions. When you get into physically buying the media, you would be operating to a fiat base like you would currently. And this is how we see Exchange just in general. So an aggregation of everyone outside of a Facebook, outside of a Google. How can we create that standard? How can we create that governance and essentially build a better, more efficient ecosystem? I think it's worth noting too that Kachava isn't necessarily charging for the usage of this platform. It's just more so an expression of what Kachava does, right? And that kind of brings it full circle associated to whether it is our measurement services that would be in this platform, whether it is our data overlays that we have all of those device IDs, right? That's where Kachava would ultimately get paid. But this aggregation is what we're trying to achieve. All of these other players have achieved it, whether it's a standard, whether it's a governance factor, ease of access, ease of use. We can do the same, and it's just ultimately getting that platform and that standard within market and ultimately adopt it. So actually, we implemented OpenDirect 2.0, and Shaylee was nice enough to come to our conference in February. We presented more of the insertion order creation during that time. We also have all of the other views as well, so supply, how you're looking at payments. This is all obviously based on a Facebook, Google type of layout. How can we make it easy? We don't necessarily need people to learn a new platform to get that benefit. They should just know that they're getting that benefit off the bat. So this is white labeled as well, so it can be implemented. We are going to be giving away that code. It could get tied into really any DSP type of platform. But ultimately, again, the adoption is what we're after, and that expression of Kachava at the end of the day. From a timeline perspective, we have probably about 5 or 10 different advertisers, some that are Kachava relationships, others that are not, and we'll be running tests in like a late Q3 timeframe.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt?